the route across that airspace. It's not entirely a Malaysian Airlines responsibility to have done that. Of course, air traffic control would have cleared the flight on that route. So
but some of the airlines have decided not to.
Not to use it, that's correct.
So that's going to be their only issue here. Just a second, Desmond, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we are hearing this morning unconfirmed reports, just now, unconfirmed reports that there may be up to 27 Australians on board that plane. That's awful news for all those families in Australia. But unconfirmed reports coming out of Malaysia at this point, unconfirmed reports out of Malaysia, there could be up to 27 Australians on board. Right. You'd anticipate from all countries using that route, but just going back to this particular route, a number of these airlines were flying over it before. There were Thai Airlines, a number of Russian airlines. Also, I think we established that Qantas has decided or doesn't use that route. Why would Malaysia have been using that route?
Look, I think you have to consider the world situation. I mean, Afghanistan, Iraq, all the other war zones that we've got going on at the present time and have had for quite a number of years. Flights continue to operate over that airspace, even with these conflicts, because they were at an altitude where they thought they were fairly safe, and they considered that the costs of diverting and going around that is not worth it under the circumstances. In this circumstances, obviously, it's a totally new factor. Very unusual for a missile to get to that sort of altitude. Very few of them can. That's why you have fighter planes. They would take the missile up and fire it at an altitude, but ground to air, that is very high. There are some missiles that can achieve that, obviously.
This missile is a BUK or Book missile,
which is
that's it there.
Yeah, which is only held by a number of organisations, and that in itself will give some indicator of where the missile has been launched from. Because not everybody has that.
NATO refers to them as Grizzlies. The US Department of Defence calls them SA-17s.
What we also need to consider here are the circumstances. Somebody on the ground. My initial gut feeling is that it hasn't been done deliberately. It hasn't been aimed at Malaysian Airlines. I believe that probably it's a similar circumstance to what has occurred previously, where somebody on the ground has thought that it was an incoming military aircraft, possibly a threat to themselves, and they've launched a missile. USS Vincennes did that with Iranian Air in the Arab Gulf 12 years ago, something like that. And then before that, the Russians also shot down the Korean Airlines 007 over the Kamchatka Peninsula. That was with a fighter plane. So this is not the first time that a civilian aircraft has been downed by military missiles. It's interesting. What I am interested in at the moment is how we know definitely that it is a missile that has hit the aircraft. I haven't seen parts of the missile on the television or anywhere else. Has somebody indicated they've found parts of the missile?
Just in terms of anecdotal evidence on the ground at this point, I mean, I think there's some in the area have seen activity. They've seen this particular style of missile around the area.
Sure.
And apart from that, I don't think there doesn't seem to have been any activity in terms of jet fighters. No.
I'm still considering whether it could have been a bomb that blew up inside the aircraft. Now, it's going to be very easy and very quick to find out whether it was, because if it was a bomb, the metalwork of the aircraft will have blown out. If it was a missile, there'll be an impact. So it'll be quick and easy to discover what the cause was. But everyone seems very positive that it's a missile, and I'm interested to know why.
We're leaving that to relevant authorities to sort that out. But as you say, there's a number of reports coming through from multiple sources. This was the style of weapon used. Just in relation to Malaysia Airlines now, what way forward for them?
I'd be very concerned if I was the CEO of Malaysian Airlines at the moment, and the board of directors. I think they've taken a very big hit with MH17. Their numbers were down. They have... a lot of people have, I think, lost confidence at that point, and this is not going to help. It's unfair. It's the way of the world, as Ross said a few moments ago. But it's all about confidence. People choose an airline out of that. The confidence factor is very high.
Agree.
We've just got some more information coming through at the moment. The highest number of passengers, we're hearing from the Star newspaper in Malaysia, the highest number of passengers are from the Netherlands with 143. Yes. Australia, we're hearing, is coming in at second with possible 27 passengers on board. There were 11 Indonesian passengers and 1 infant on board. Britain has 6 passengers, France and Germany 4 each. Belgium 3 and Canada 1. Nationalities of the other 58 passengers were not stated in the list, and we've got crew members who were on board, 15 crew members on board that flight. So we've got that information on screen now.
The thing is to hear, look, this is coming from a Malaysian source. Again, we're waiting for official word from Malaysian authorities, from Malaysian Airlines. We presume that might be right, that information. But again, the information is coming in thick and it's coming in fast. And this is not official information. It's coming off a website. So just to reiterate, those numbers are disturbing in every way. I mean, and we know there are a number of Australians on board. DFAT has confirmed that. But as Alicia points out, a number of different countries and a tragedy on a very, very large scale.
Yeah. Presumably Malaysia Airlines would have the passenger list and perhaps the Star has got hold of that list, but they would be obviously trying to get in contact with the family members of those 295 people on board, 280 passengers. So, as I said, 27 Australians, that is what that newspaper is reporting on board that flight.
And I think everyone woke up this morning thinking Malaysia Airlines not again.
Yeah, exactly.
As a result of what happened last time.
It's terrible. They're becoming very practiced at crisis management.
When you hear reports, or when you hear that a cargo plane was shot down in a similar area just 2 days ago, should this plane have been there? Should a passenger jet have been there?
That is a question that'll have to be answered. I don't think it probably should have been, but as I said earlier, airplanes, civil airplanes, normally do and continue operations even over war zones, but it's on a risk assessment, and this has not been a very good risk assessment.
These past couple of planes that have been shot down, some cargo planes, one of them was carrying 49 passengers and officials just last month in June. It's got to be a red flag to any airline, I would have thought. And you say it could be about cost, simple as that, because it's the most direct route.
Yeah, everyone's very conscious of the cost of fuel these days, and airlines try to take the most direct route from their departure point to their destination. And if that means travelling close to or across a area of conflict, it frequently does occur.
And it's a long way up, isn't it? 33,000 feet.
That's entirely the point. There should have been communication, but the first thing that goes out the door when a conflict is on is truth and clear, calm communication. The fog of war, as they refer to it, even if the flight plan had been filed, even if the Ukrainian authorities had been notified. Obviously, there are groups in there who would not receive that information.
We've spoken about these 2 black boxes that have been found that will reportedly be handed over to Moscow. Yeah. How useful will they be in an investigation, given this isn't pilot error or technical error?
I think in this case, those 2 boxes, the voice recorder from the cockpit voice recorder, CVR, and the flight data recorder, the famous black box, which is actually orange. Yeah. Both of those will, I think, give us a very clear indication of what's been going on. The cockpit voice recorder in particular should have the 2 hours of voice recording of everything that has been said on the flight deck prior to and up to the point of impact.
How sophisticated would that have been? If you can just take us through, you indicated that you thought it might have been a mistake, that they have mistakenly thought that it was a military plane. How quick would that operation have been, that there would have been a detection of an aircraft in the airspace and that this missile was launched? How would that have all taken place?
Quite quickly. If they thought that they were under attack, if they thought that it was an incoming bomber or even an incoming missile, they probably would have reacted within a few moments. Less than a couple of minutes, possibly. If you look at the more sophisticated... Again, we don't know who fired the missile. If it was a rebel group, if it was perhaps a less disciplined group than a formally trained military force, it might have happened in a totally different way. If it was a formally trained military force, and if you take the USS Vincennes incident in the Arab Gulf years ago, they have all sorts of equipment available to them to try and identify the aircraft.
OK, we're just sorry, Matt, we're going to interrupt you there. Let's go to this press conference in Malaysia now.
The aircraft was a Boeing 777-200. The aircraft's flight route was declared safe by the International Civil Aviation Organization and International Air Transportation Association